Hey guys, welcome to What the Freak. I'm very excited to have one of my best friends on today who I've known for, about almost 10 years now.
Almost 10 years, yep.
Coming up on the decade.
Woohoo.
Yeah. Super excited to have Taran Emmert.
Emmert.
I was about to ask. I knew I just fucked it up. So I'm glad you corrected me immediately. That's what friends are for, right?
Yeah.
Taran Emmert.
It's okay. I guess we never really say each other's last names.
Yeah, I never say your last name. It's like it's Taran.
Yeah.
Just Taran being in her Taranness.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So would love to have you introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you like to do? And then we can dive in.
Sweet. Well, I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me. My name is Taran Emmert. I am a AZ native. I do a lot of different things for my career, mostly in the healing arts and creative arts world. I do massage therapy, sound healing, different forms of body work and energy work, as well as I'm a musician and an artist and just a lover of all things creativity, all things wellness, all things expressive movement. Basically love everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like probably the better question is like, what don't you do? What don't you like to do?
That is the better question.
Awesome. Well, one of the ways that I most relate to you is in being a very multi-passionate human being, very ADD mind, always trying something different, but also what I really appreciate about you and that I relate to for myself as well is that you don't just do a bunch of different things. Like you're not like a jack of all trades. It's like you actually are really fucking good at a lot of different things.
Thank
you
you.
Really go deep into multiple different paths. And even more recently, I've seen you just on a whole nother level weave those paths together more and more. So I'm super excited to dive into that a little bit more. So maybe just share with me, what kind of comes up for you around the path of being a multi-passionate individual.
Yeah, that's a long story. So I feel like it's really only been the last year and maybe even last 6 months that I've really kind of made peace with this lifestyle as, a superpower and like in alignment with who I really am. I think I spent the last decade really trying to pick one thing and really feeling like a failure over and over and over again because I would get so excited about something and pursue it just all the way, super, super hard. I have like 2 modes. I either do something or I don't. And then I would either lose interest or get excited about something else or feel kind of like, oh, maybe this isn't what I want to do. And after so many years of starting over career-wise or hobby-wise, I was starting to feel like, what's wrong with me? Like, I can't commit to anything. I'll never succeed in a career path. And it's so interesting because in the last 6 months, I really feel like I've stepped into that now as like, this is what makes me special and this is what makes me unique and this is what lights me up is having 10 forms of income and 10 hobbies and to still be constantly like learning and growing and progressing in all these different things.
So what shifted for you in the last 6 months to a year that you feel like you've been able to embrace that more fully?
I think just embracing myself and my uniqueness and just like really tuning out. I mean, it's easy to be like, okay, don't listen to the world, don't listen to the desires of like wanting to like make a certain amount of money or have a career that looks a certain way. But it's honestly really hard not to. It's hard not to feel like your value or your worth is based upon how much money you're making, how many followers you have, how successful you are in your career. And those messages are so subliminal and they're programmed, over and over and over again over decades of your life. And so I think I really had to come to terms with like how much stress that I was putting on that of this like one metric for success. And once I kind of shed that, and then really was like, yeah, I'm going to learn to like embody who I am. Like, this is really who I am. I think like the biggest shifting point was earlier last year. As you know, I did real estate school. So I was like, I was kind of grappling with this. What am I going to do with my life? And I was like, I'll be a real estate agent, which is pretty comical. Now, most of my friends and family were kind of like, okay, that doesn't make any sense, but we'll support you. So I did that. I paid for school and I finished it, and I spent months studying and memorizing legal jargon and real estate terms. And at the end of it, I was like, I fucking hate this. This is horrible. This is not who I am. This is not what I want to do. And just, doing some deeper dives, like through meditation and with plant medicine and some therapy, like really getting to the bottom of like a mainstream career, or one career was never going to make me happy. I was never going to be happy with that. And so just really like shifting that mindset and just owning the fact that I loved doing lots of different things and I want to do lots of different things, and I can make it happen. Like, I can make a lifestyle where I get to nourish all these different parts of me.
Yeah, I love that. And I really respect and relate to the path that you're on. And that one of the last things you said really hit me, which was that you were never really happy. You don't think you could actually be happy just doing one thing.
Yeah, really, I can't.
And yeah, I fucking get it. Like, I so get that.
Yeah,
and
it's very similar in that way.
And and that's not to say that, like, I think there probably are a lot of people who are built to primarily just do one thing and seem to be relatively happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we're all built differently. And for me, it's like I tried that, and I just noticed my natural inclinations. And I did even question, well, am I just distracting myself? And do I just need to like focus on one thing? But no, there's like a very genuine impulse inside of me that like wants to do multiple things and understand how they work and see how they kind of fit together with each other, and just having that variety is so important for me to actually feeling fulfilled and happy and satisfied, and feel like I'm actually living up to my potential and utilizing everything that I can within myself. And I think there is something to be said about doing one thing, like focusing on one thing with a certain amount of energy and attention in order to go deeper with it. I think let's say in the long run, I want to be doing 10 different things all at the same time. I've tried the approach of, well, let me just do a little bit of 10 different things every week. And that hasn't usually worked out well. But if I focus on just like a few things per week, it's almost like it's this balance of like, how do I have enough variety in the things I'm doing while not having so much that I'm spread too thin that I'm not actually able to like really be present with each of the things that I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really good point, and something to like also consider within this, idea or concept of multi-passion, is that there does have to be some forms of discipline and focus. But it just can look a little bit different than, having one thing. But for sure, there's been almost everything that I've pursued or learned, I've given that thing almost all of my attention at some point. Like anytime I've studied a new modality or learned a new art form or a new instrument, there's been months where that's my main focus. But I've just learned to incorporate and kind of continue nourishing all the other pieces of me. I also feel like, and maybe you feel this way too, is that when I'm not, say I have like, 10 things, 10 hobbies or on a good day, on a chill day, I genuinely feel depletion when I'm not nourishing most of them, when I'm not moving my body or practicing, like yoga or trail running, or if I'm not creating. For me, that's like, if I'm not creating, drawing, painting, working with, clay, all the different mediums that I love, I feel within me this like gap. I have like dreams about it, and I'm like longing to create, or I'm longing to make music, or I'm longing to be outside, or I'm longing to learn something new. And I feel like you have to listen to those pieces of yourself. I think all of us are multi-passionate in a way, and we have all of these, pieces of ourselves we compartmentalize sometimes, and they need nourishing. They need food and fuel, and that looks different for everybody. But for me, it looks like making time to create, making time to make music, making time to work on my business, working time to hone myself, my skills. And I feel that gap or that dissonance when I'm not feeding or nourishing those pieces of myself.
Yeah, I definitely relate to that, and I get so much out of expressing myself in a variety of ways, whether that's through business. Business to me is a form of expression. I expressing my voice and my values and what I stand for in the world through how I run my business and through how I treat the people in my business. Another more traditional form of expression is my rap. When I'm freestyle rapping, like that's a whole nother type of expression, and different pieces of me are called up to be witnessed when I'm doing that, or to be expressed when I'm doing that. Moving my body in different ways, it's just like bringing out other aspects of me, and I feel like each of them are important. Each of them are valuable pieces of who I am, and I wouldn't be as full and whole of a person if I ignored those pieces, which I did ignore a lot of them for years. And I think those pieces inside of me that were ignored were actually pieces of my depression. So I would identify as depressed most of my years growing up. I never got an official diagnosis, just as I, until recently, never got an official ADD diagnosis, which I did actually get that recently.
Oh, congratulations.
Oh, thank you. It's, good to have a official confirmation of what I already knew. I don't know that I'll actually ever even get a depression diagnosis, though, because I feel like I'm so coming out the other side of that I don't know that it would even be a thing. Well, she actually kind of did partially a depression evaluation while we were doing the ADHD evaluation, and she's like, yeah, it seems like from everything you told me, that used to be a thing, but now presently with your answers, like it's not really a thing anymore.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's amazing.
And I think that took many years of really uncovering and retrieving those parts of myself that I had lost or that I just didn't even know about. Yeah. And it's like the more pieces of myself that I find and find a channel, a way for that part of myself to express itself, to be seen and witnessed, and to just be heard, then all of a sudden that piece of me that felt really heavy or down is a bit lighter. And I've seen that magic happen in my life over and over and over again when I start something new, where it's like, oh, like a little piece of me is no longer in the dark. It's now like real. Like it made it real.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it made sense why I was feeling so down, because it was
like
disconnected from I lost one of my best friends, like, and then I rediscovered them, and now we get to build a relationship with each other.
Totally. I mean, one of my like most heart-centered belief systems is like that we are all naturally creators, following the pattern of life as we have been created. We are creators. And that's, I believe, like when we are in our fullest potential and our fullest happiness is not just, creating in an artistic way, but creating our life, creating our passion. But I think so much of us have been completely disconnected from that creativity, and that can look like so many different ways of expression. But I think that is when we kind of can get into those darker spaces or depression or feel disconnected, is because we are disconnected from our truth, from our source, from our innate power and ability to like be creators of our own life, be creators of expression. And yeah, I think the best thing that anyone can do for just their overall happiness is find a form to create in, whether that's food or music or art or dance or movement or conversation or, you know, the way they dress or their interior design. There's so many forms of creativity. And yeah, when we stifle those pieces of ourselves, I think we just like dim our lights, you know, and can get into those darker spaces of disconnect.
Yeah, it's really, you sharing all that is really making me think about how, man, there's so many people who just don't have either the space or even the permission to express themselves in more than just a very limited amount of ways. I mean, I know, just speaking for myself, it's like most of my years growing up, I didn't even know expression was like a thing. I didn't know that it was important to share my voice and what was inside of me. I didn't have a space for it. I didn't feel like I had permission to do that. I felt a lot of shame around my voice and being heard. And ultimately they're just, you know, I definitely had a supportive family, but there was only so much encouragement or even understanding of how important that was to me. And maybe it's less important to other people, or maybe they just, you know, going at it in life, find ways of expressing themselves that it just are kind of naturally laid out for them. For me, it wasn't really. I had to kind of seek that for myself. I had to find that for myself, what those different pieces of me were that wanted to be seen, felt, heard, expressed. So yeah, just really, feeling a lot of reverence towards where each person might be at in terms of, you know, you may not even understand what it is that would really light your soul up. You may not really understand what it is that's going to fulfill you or satiate you, or what the path is in order to develop that part of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Having just access to those tools, you know, for sure. I mean, we both grew up very religious. I grew up Mormon, and you grew up Catholic, right?
Yep.
So I think there's a lot of like suppression that comes with that territory. It's not like you're growing up, you know, handed a microphone and a canvas and a colorful wardrobe and like express yourself. You know, it's very much, there's a lot of kind of conformity that comes with that type of upbringing. But yeah, as you get older and you have access to things like classes and videos and, you know, you start to explore, there's definitely ways to kind of, start to explore into that. And I just encourage everyone to let go of what the Western world teaches us that creative expression should look like. We're taught that you should only draw if it looks amazing, and that you should only sing if you can win American Idol, and you should only dance if you're, you know, have all these incredible skills. But we are robbing ourselves of all those pleasures of creating when we like put ourselves in the box of, okay, I should only do these things for the performance aspect instead of the process aspect, you know, of what it means to get lost in creativity or creating.
Yo, that's huge.
Yeah,
like,
that's huge. I mean, that's why most people don't create, is the mental blocks that we put around it socially.
Yeah, that's like a pretty big pressure to put on, and we put that on like everyone.
Yeah.
It's like, don't do something unless you can be absolutely great at it and recognized for your high level of skill in something.
Yeah, I mean, that's what kept me from doing so many things. It still does, but I, you know, try to work through. But even something as simple as like starting a blog. I just started a blog. I've wanted to do it for forever. But I had this belief, like, if you don't have a certain amount of followers and readers, like, it's not successful and you shouldn't be doing this. Or if you post a cover and you don't have a certain amount of views, like, you know, you should take it down. Or like, it's so silly, but those beliefs like sneak up into everything, you know. It's just like, it's wanting to measure the success of our creation instead of just creating to create.
Yeah, that word, like measure, like measuring our success. that's something I've really been considering a lot more lately. Even this podcast is a good example. It's like, I'm getting like 10 to 15 views on YouTube per episode right now. And we put a lot of work and time and money and effort into putting this all together. But that's not the reason that I'm doing it. Would in 10 years, I like my podcast to be, reaching as many people as like Joe Rogan does? Like, sure, cool, awesome. Like, yeah, if we're genuinely providing amazing value to people and they get a lot out of it, then absolutely, I would love that. Love it to grow in that way, but that's not why I'm doing it.
Yeah, and that's amazing. I've always respected you for that because you I feel like you're so heart-centered in your expression with your rap and your podcast and just even the things that you talk about on social media. It's I know that that's coming from a space of you just feeling good about expressing. You want to just express the way you feel about things and you want to share your voice, and it's not about the audience, Mm-hmm. So I really respect that and honor that in your expression.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it feels good. Yeah, it's a medicine for me, just in sharing. No matter who else witnesses it or what they may receive from it, it's worthwhile just in the expression itself, just in that process of expression, that process of creation. There is so much value, and that's been more and more my success marker that I really go by now is how did this experience make me feel? How did this experience make me grow? How did this experience shift my energy? And would I want to do more of that? And, and would I want to do this in a different way or a bigger way or whatever it might be? And that's more what guides me now rather than, trying to get a number of likes or views. I actually just got shadow banned again a couple of days ago on Instagram for a minute. And, but it's I don't even care. It's it's cool when over 100 people get to view my stories, but even if just 10 or 20 people do, it doesn't make a difference to what I'm expressing. I think there is something to, I would like to express things and translate things in a way that others can receive more and more if it would be medicine for them to receive that. But the expression of itself is really the primary focus. And even if, I have, and this has literally happened to me, I've had the most insane freestyle rap sessions and I didn't record it and it was just me in a room. Yeah. And I'm damn, that was wild. and nobody will ever hear that in their whole lives. And yet the expression was still worth it. And it was still amazing. And it still changed me in some way and had a positive effect on who I am. And I know that there's always more in the tank, right? There's always more there that wants to be expressed. So it's almost I now understand when people talk about it's not about where you get to in the journey. It's about the becoming. It's who am I becoming in this process? Yeah,
process over product. That's my motto, process over product. Yeah.
I love that. And, it's and that's not to totally say that the end result isn't important in some way, but it's just what is my relationship with that? And can I trust that in enjoying the process and more getting connected to the process, that over time, the end result, the end product is going to be more refined. It's going to get better. It's going to be something that, if it's my intention, that reaches more people and is medicine for them. But that's not the primary focus. Maybe that's a long-term goal is I would love for my expression to be a medicine for people. And first and foremost, it needs to be medicine for myself or a medicine also for those that I'm co-creating with in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's easy to, getting attached to end goal and dreams and things like that can be such a crippling thing, right? To put all of our success, our feelings of success in a long-term goal robs us of the current state, and the current joy. And so it's I think so great to have, it's awesome to have goals and to want to reach a certain amount, but can you feel now what you think you're going to feel when you reach 100,000 followers? It's kind of collapsing that paradigm of like, I have this goal to reach 100,000 followers. What's that going to feel like? I'm going to feel seen. I'm going to feel complete. I'm going to feel popular, like what all those feelings are. And channeling that now, you know, when you have two people, I think like that's what's going to give you the most freedom in the end, is being like, I feel I don't need that to feel complete, to feel expressed, to feel seen, because I'm witnessing myself and my own expression, you know? Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, you sharing that is really tuning me into kind of this feeling or this thread that I'm tracing back through most of my growing up years, which is how much time I've spent like reaching towards something or building towards something because I was after a feeling. It's like, how many things have I achieved in my life because I was, in a way, like running away from something like loneliness. You know, it's like I wanted to be great at something so I'd be recognized, so I'd be seen, so I'd be felt, so I would be connected to and appreciated, because I didn't feel those things inside of myself. Despite having very loving parents and despite, you know, having a relatively safe and supportive upbringing, it's like I still felt this immense loneliness, this immense lack of being understood. And I felt like nobody really saw me. One of our friends just texted me the other day, and she was asking me, she's like, what does it mean to be seen? She's like, I keep hearing people say that. She's like, what does that mean? And, you know, we had a cool little back and forth, and I was basically like, you know, for me, being seen is having someone see past the surface and really witness me in a way that most people wouldn't be able to recognize, where my soul feels seen, where I'm like, ooh, like you really get me. Like, you like get the pieces of me that others would just overlook, or just looking at my external of my life, like they wouldn't get that, or they wouldn't understand that about me. And I think that's just such a huge thing. And I struggle with this whole like people pleaser, trap, where I actually have this view, and I haven't heard too many people express this. And I'm curious how you relate to this, but I think there's actually something genuine within the desire to people please. And what I mean by that is there's this desire to be liked and to connect with other human beings and to be acknowledged and appreciated for what is great about us and what people like about us. Like, I think there actually is, I think because for so many of us that is generally such a negative experience, as we become aware of it, of like, wow, like everything I do is just to try to like please other people or meet their expectations. And I think there is a lot of shadow side to that. But I think there is something genuine of like, oh, I just want to be loved.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I just want to be seen, felt, appreciated. So yeah, I'm curious to hear like, what is your relationship with that whole topic?
Yeah, that's a complex one for sure. Well, I think just like anything, there can be like a balance, or there can be a detrimental point where it's, causing you more harm than it is good. Because if you're in constantly seeking that love, and you're sacrificing your own happiness, you're sacrificing your own needs and wants to get that from other people, and then you're still not getting that, then you're creating this like really unhealthy cycle, But I think the core desire to be loved is so innate within anybody. Everybody wants to be loved and seen. It's like our basic survival need, And I think there has to be a certain amount of that in our interaction, like wanting to connect, wanting to be loved, and hopefully receiving that. I think when you're in a healthy relationship, that's meeting those needs without like a large cost, like it can be like a low level of symbiotic relating. But yeah, when there's that like overarching need that consumes everything else and you're not ever fulfilling that. I mean, also the truth is like no one can really meet that need. You know, like our self-love and self-approval is the only thing that can really like satiate that. If it's coming from a wound that needs to be filled, it may always stay, always stay empty. Other people's approvals may be these like little band-aids, but in the core, if we're like desperate for approval and love, that's usually like a lack of our own ability to like love ourselves and approve ourselves. I mean, I can honestly, kind of circling back to like the beginning of our conversation, as I've gotten older and I've like done some therapy and done some more deep diving around like, okay, why am I the way that I am, or why am I super, multi all over the place? I think it comes from like growing up in a household where I didn't feel seen, and I was always like, I'm going to be the best athlete.
Excuse me.
You're good. Cough it out.
All right.
Good.
For now.
For now. I have to cough. It's contagious. Anyway, but yeah, growing up kind of in the mindset of like constantly seeking approval, constantly seeking validation, wanting to be the best artist, wanting to be the best singer and best pianist, and always being like, look how amazing I am. I'm like the best in my class, and not really ever feeling like I had parental approval or like that, validation or that love. I think that drove me to become that way, to constantly be pursuing things and wanting to be the best and like the most talented. And I think there was that shadow side of like, being multi-passionate that it originally stemmed from not feeling like I was enough, not feeling good enough, not feeling talented enough or successful enough. And so, shifting, I think the awareness around that, it was really huge for me to kind of understand, like, I've created this like loop of not feeling enough by being the most, essentially, just kind of messed up, but like creating this new relationship to that's okay, I'm now pursuing and doing all of these things because I love them and I love myself, and I can like tell myself that I'm amazing and validate my own expressions versus doing these things for external validation. So kind of like, all loops together. If you think about it in that way, it's like we, expressing ourselves can often look like wanting external validation, and it's easy to want that, but it always has to come from within. We're the only real people that can source love.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's a big one too. I'm like having flashbacks to like times in my life where, like running, for example. It's like I worked so hard to be great at running because, I wanted to be recognized. It's interesting though, because I actually really appreciate the work ethic that was cultivated, perhaps initially from maybe a misguided place, where it's like I was seeking this approval or validation or running away from something, or just, like finding some way to channel these deep emotions that I didn't know how to otherwise express. And so I think I poured that into a strong work ethic and running, in school, academics, and the extracurriculars that I did. So I'm actually really grateful in a way. Like it was kind of a gift. Like loneliness, I can actually see it as like a gift, where it's like if I hadn't felt that, maybe if I had just felt, this baseline level of like love and appreciation and acceptance, that I may not have been as motivated. Now, I think there's other ways to develop that motivation. But I guess the very least I can do is just honor the path that I've been on, and honor that there was some very positive things that came out of that. And in the long run, it wasn't sustainable. And as I continued doing my healing work, all of a sudden, like, that motivation pool, like, was shrinking, and I could actually no longer get motivation from, like, running away from loneliness or trying to be validated by other people. It just didn't even come anymore because those parts of myself were getting more and more healed. I wasn't seeking anything from that. So I think that's actually something I haven't really heard people talk about, is like, what do you do as your trauma-rooted motivations start to shrink? Like, how do you shift to something else? Which for me was very unclear at first.
Yeah.
Like, I actually, like, lost a lot of motivation and didn't really have anything to replace it because I didn't understand a different way to operate. I was so used to those well-worn patterns of where I drew my energy from and how I got things done that, like, as those went away, as I got more healed, I was like, what do I do? Where's my energy? How do I do this? It was very disorienting at first.
Yeah. What did you find, like, you ended up shifting to for your power source of motivation? Because I still view you as a very motivated person.
Sure. I mean, I think it shifted to, it more just comes from a place of being. So it's just, it's who I am and the values that I embody and seek to embody more fully. So for example, like, I really value human connection. I really value serving other people and like helping them to alleviate suffering in their own lives. I really value supporting others in evolving themselves and transforming and finding greater joy and peace within themselves. So those are some of the motivations that now drive me. And also, and this is something that's still very much work in progress for me, is really noticing, what feels good in my body and what feels good for me to do, and how do I feel after an experience versus before it, and just kind of using the intelligence of my body as an indicator for what's really in alignment for me and what's really nourishing and satiating for me, which oftentimes can be very subtle, especially at first. So I think a lot of times now I just really have to lean deeper into my intuition of, what seems like a worthwhile path to endeavor upon. And honestly, it does take me some time to really get deeper into something now. Whereas previously there was so much just immediate reactionary energy I could pull up because there was all this trauma and emotions, like, that it was actually easier to get started and get out the door. It's actually, I'm much slower moving these days. And it takes me even like a few times to really lock in a habit sometimes, like CrossFit, for example. I started going to CrossFit for a few weeks, then I stopped for a couple of weeks. Then I went for a couple more weeks, and then I got COVID for a couple of weeks. Then I went for a few more weeks, and then the last 2 weeks I actually haven't gone again. Because my body is like taking time to adjust. I was like my whole body was actually sore, and like it was actually like distracting just walking around each day because I was so sore. So it was such a new experience for me and very whole body workout that I think my body just needed a couple of more weeks to just like be like, okay, let's take a step back. Like, I'm committed to this in the long run. I definitely want to, and it's like sometimes hard. I can't force myself to do something unless it's in alignment with the other pieces of my life too.
Yeah, and sometimes progress looks like that. We're so like focused on this like linear progress of like, improving in this amount of time and doing something for 30 days straight. But sometimes it looks like, like I feel like you and I both have a very similar relationship to running now, where it's like sometimes we run every single day, and I don't know if you're still running every single day.
I was for
right
like
now.
2 or 3 months, and the last week I actually took off.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it looks like that, and then sometimes you're super motivated and training for a race and like waking up and going hard, and then sometimes just like not into it for a few weeks, and I think that's okay. Like, we're seasonal beings, we focus our direction in different ways. Sometimes progress looks like this up and a little bit down and a little bit up and a little bit down and then a little more up. And it's like this little roller coaster, and we have to like allow ourselves to ebb and flow with all of our passions and all of our projects and all of the things that we're working on. That's part of like being a multi-passionate person and living a multi-passionate lifestyle is like, it's not this clean, having this ADHD lifestyle, like it's not this clean grid. It's not like I have 10 projects and I spend 20 minutes on them every single day each. It's like on Monday sometimes I do this, and on Tuesday sometimes I just sleep all day, and then some days my days look like wake up, go on a run, like make a green juice, work for 5 hours, play music for 2 hours, like go do a sound healing, like, and it's a full day of productivity, like take a cello lesson, whatever it is. And then sometimes it's like for weeks I just don't do much, and I think just really taking the pressure off of ourselves to be, we're not machines, we have rhythms that are seasonal and cyclical and with the day and with the month, and some days are, it just looks different. Progress looks different. It's not, again, with the measuring, sometimes it's like, let's measure in a different way. Like, how do I feel? What do I need?
Yeah. I love this piece that you're talking about on like the seasons. And just there's a season for everything, right? And there's like a cadence and a rhythm to certain things. And I think there's also like an optimal path for each endeavor at any given time or phase in our life. And that's huge. Like for example, in my music, I spent the better part of last year, really like about 10 or 11 months working on one song. Literally just one song, my first song. And it was a lot, because it was, at least for me, it was more than just making a beat and dropping some lyrics. Like it was an authentic expression of my soul and my life and my healing and my journey. And I evolved as the song evolved. And it took a lot of energy to pour in there. And then finally we finished the song, and then a few months later finished the music video, and then had a release party in December. And then after that, I actually went through a bit of like almost like postpartum depression after birthing this song, and still am like taking a bit of a step back from music for the last like couple of months, really, like month or two. And I've tried to like, oh, let's like get started on the next one, and it's like, no,
you can't force it.
It's just not there yet.
Yeah,
I'm not ready. And, I think we live in a society where it's like work, like just show up like every single day. Like, and that's just not how everything works, at least. Maybe some things are more conducive to that, like consistency, showing up 9 to 5, 5 days a week. Maybe that works for some people and for some professions. But for a lot of us, I think, we all are trying to fit ourselves in this box that just doesn't quite work.
Yeah, it doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah, and it really makes me think how important really the intuition is. And that's like one of the most powerful tools that I feel like I have on my tool belt these days is like my deep, deep intuition, which I still have a hard time trusting, right? It's like I still shame myself for taking time off of running or certain things at first. I think I catch it a lot quicker now and like give myself permission and acceptance. But, I think each person only knows and your body only knows what you truly need. For me, this last week, my body was literally like, stop doing everything. Stop working out, stop running, stop taking all your supplements and vitamins. It's like there was too much input, and it just needed time to chill and actually see what's happening inside of it. It needed a finer tuning into what was going on in my body. And like now over the last few days, I've actually been experiencing like some more release and some more like deep buried sickness that's been like coming up to be seen and felt and understood and accepted and released. And that only happened through me being willing to listen to my deep intuition and stop just trying to like, well, I need to do this. I have to do that. I should be doing this. Because it wasn't working, and I just felt like a jumbled mess.
Yeah, and you have to listen to that. I mean, that's how people end up a lot more sick, is maximizing and stressing out their nervous systems and their physical body for decades sometimes. And then they, have some serious internal issues because they never really allow their bodies to like recover or rest. Yeah, rest is hard. I think that's actually which is so silly, but it's the hardest for people like you and I who love just like going hard all the time. I mean, I had COVID last week, as you know, so that was the hardest part. It was like literally doing nothing for over a week. And by nothing, I mean nothing. Like I got up to like make some soup at one point and I was like exhausted. I was like, that wiped me out. Like I'm so tired. Or like, there was a part of me that was like, oh, well, I'll have all day to like paint. And I like literally worked on art for like 2 minutes and was like, I feel so sick. Like I need to go lay back down. And just this message of like, sometimes you need to just like rest deeply, and just disconnect from all the things.
Yeah. Yeah. Why is that so hard?
It's so hard.
And it's so simple, right? It's like, oh, I'm just going to rest. And then there's all these reasons why I shouldn't be doing that come up. All these reasons and all this like guilt that comes up. Well,
yeah, the guilt.
Everybody else is working. Everybody else is running around. And really it's what good am I to other people if I'm not actually doing what's best for myself? Like I'm not. I can't show up in the way that I actually want to unless I'm taking care of myself in the way that I need. And maybe some of my external circumstances prevent me from, at least for now, it's like I can't really afford to just spend 2 months completely off. Like I have a lot of responsibilities. I have a lot of people who depend on me. I have a lot of projects that are in the works. So it would be irresponsible of me to do that and would ultimately end up in a lot more suffering for others because of me not showing up. But I can find those moments and create more space for myself from where I'm at. Maybe if I've only been taking, let's say, 10 hours a week for myself, it's like I could take 12. I could take 15.
Yeah.
I can find a way, starting from where I'm at, to increase and give myself what I need. Or I can, like yesterday, I canceled a couple of calls that I had scheduled because I really needed that extra time to just be with myself and rest and lay in my bed. And I feel so much better because I did that. And I'm going to be able to show up so much better to my commitments for the rest of the week because I took that extra time. Like 5-6 hours for myself.
Yeah, I think I've learned that lesson so many times is it's like you either like rest hard, take off a few days, allow yourself to heal, or you're sick for twice as long. Mm-hmm. And then you lose twice as much time, So when the call comes to like, okay, you're sick, like actually listening to it and being like, okay, I need rest, I need sleep, I need to cancel my day or cancel my plans.
Yeah, and that happens on the macro too, right? It's like people live for years ignoring health problems because they're just hustling, grinding, whatever reasons they have to not slow down, to not listen to their bodies, to not, invest in their health more now. Whether that's through the food that they eat or different therapies or different, whatever it is that's going to be supportive for them, the longer you put that off, the more you kind of build up this debt that eventually will need to be repaid. But it's like you can be more proactive. It's like someone might be really good at investing their 401k and saving up financially and creating that cushion and abundance for themselves that sets them up for the future, but they may be completely ignoring investing in other parts of themselves now that will just continue to degrade over time, and they're going to end up really on a lifeline in certain ways if they don't invest in that way. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do now at 31. And like, how can I invest in myself in all of the ways that will set me up for a holistically, abundant future that's healthy, I'm thriving, all those things, rather than waiting 10, 20 years down the road till I have X number of dollars or X number of time or X number of achievement that I feel like I can finally give that to myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know, I give that to myself a little bit more each day now.
Yeah, prioritizing all the things. Excuse me.
I'm curious to hear a little more, if you want to share, how has working with plant medicine affected you as a multi-passionate person?
Great question. Well, I do think that sitting in ceremony with ayahuasca was the first time that I really, really saw the value in the way that I am, that I completely shed all of the fears and doubts around like having ADHD, and like I saw like my brain and its complexity and its, kind of all over the placeness, and I had always viewed it as this weakness. And sitting in ceremony, like I so clearly saw that it was this like beautiful fluidity of the mind, like that it was this complex, like multifaceted expression, and that it was like awesome. It was like, I think you were there during that experience. I think we shared after, but yeah, just being like having this experience of being like, oh, I'm such a Taran, like I'm so Taranish, and like that's what makes me so awesome is my Taranness. And part of that Taranness is like just being someone who is super passionate about a lot of things, and that there's this, that it's very possible to live a life where I'm pursuing a dozen different things and am interweaving them all. I've been kind of figuring out how to like interweave them together, but yeah, just seeing that it's possible and it's beautiful and it's like special and unique, and not, we believe like we're broken, there's something wrong with us because the world doesn't cater to the way that we think or move, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It's just understanding it.
Yeah, because the world never told you that was like a thing like that, that you should embrace, or that, because I experienced a lot of that too, where it's like I didn't experience that validation or encouragement or awareness that the way that I'm built is actually a gift.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's just, I'm just built differently than a lot of other people.
Yeah, and in fact you're taught it's a weakness. You're taught you need medication, and like instead of just learning like, okay, here's some tools to be able to focus, and here's some tools to be able to like work on 5 projects versus 10 projects, or just understanding it.
Yeah, there was just not even conversation around it. And I mean, I'm fortunate that my parents, and especially my mom, never saw how I functioned as like a handicap. She refused to see it that way, and she refused to medicate me, which I'm very grateful for now.
Yeah.
And she saw it as a gift, that she's like, I just wanted to give you everything I could to help you to cultivate that and to play to your strengths. And, I think there was a degree of, there were certain pieces that were ignored that did eventually need addressing, but it's like, you can only do the best you can as a parent. So thank you, Mom. You did great. Yeah, but it's like there was never like growing up, here's what to do if your mind goes in 1,000 different places. Like,
yeah, here's a basic meditation principle to like observe your focus. And I mean, imagine all of the thousands, if not tens of thousands of kids prescribed Adderall, which is like literally meth.
Yo, it's that shit's intense.
It's intense.
I tried it for a couple of months more last year, and I couldn't do it after a couple of months. It was,
I mean, imagine your development, your developing brain as a child taking that every single day for sometimes years, while you're still developing. Like, that's how we treat ADHD in this world. We're like, let's give you drugs, hard drugs.
It doesn't seem like a very healthy, mature solution. Like, Seems like we don't know what to do with you, so just literally take these drugs. Literally just take this. Yeah, it's basically meth. That's wild to me that we do that to our kids.
It's crazy.
Like, it's insane.
And I would venture to say that even the majority of children have an I think it's just ADHD now, diagnosis, but yet we're cramming them into these. I mean, that's a whole other conversation, is the education system. But, it's the way that we first learn to interact with our minds and to demonize the way that our brains work.
Yeah. This picture that's coming to me right now is almost like we grew up in a world where we were told to mold ourselves to the system that was created and to fit within the system that was created, rather than the systems in our outer world molding to us. And I feel like that's a huge disservice to especially like young growing humans, to not really deeply evaluate, if so many kids aren't able to function within the system you have built, maybe the system needs to change.
Something's wrong. Not a genius, but something doesn't seem quite right.
Well, it's like, why are we making the kids wrong rather than the system wrong? Why aren't we changing their environment and the ways that we learn and the ways that we teach kids? And to realize that, like, I wonder how much of that diagnosis evaluation process is really just saying, oh, you're a kid and your mind is imaginative and you don't like to sit in a chair for 8 hours a day. It's like, why don't we have those simple thoughts and discussions?
Right.
And why do we ignore that? It's weird.
It is weird. It's super weird. I mean, there are some, alternative learning programs in schools out there, but there's such the minority. But my little sister, she's 7, big age gap, as you know, surprise baby. But my mom, I would say maybe she's ADHD probably, but she's definitely she's super brilliant, but just high energy, high strung, attention deficit for sure. But my mom enrolled her in this art school, and they learn everything through art, science, math, everything is learned through art. And it's so awesome. They have like gardens and they have like dogs on the campus, and like she's thriving. She's killing it. She's so happy. She's doing so great. And it's like, taking in someone who is alternative in their learning and putting them in an alternative learning school and then watching them thrive, because they have the proper tools to learn in the way that works for their brain.
Man, I wish I had something
Wish
like
I had that. Yeah. That would have been nice.
I had a gifted education class once a week, and that was always great.
Nice.
I felt like it was a day off from school, from typical school, where I could actually, it was just like fun, and I got to stretch my mind in new and different ways. There wasn't so much focus on like the test scores and things like that, which I conformed to, and I was a good test taker and everything, but I just didn't have room for my mind to just unfurl and explore and be curious and imaginative. And I feel like there's just so many people in our generation who just grew up in such a like kind of like cut and dry system.
It's so structured.
It's like unfortunate, So yeah, I'm glad to hear that plant medicine really helped you to just come to a deeper acceptance for how you're built. And
absolutely.
Like I really pray that more and more creative, powerful humans can find that deeper acceptance for the different passions they have and the different pieces of themselves that they want to explore. And I think even to a degree, all humans need different important things in their life to be fulfilled. Like, we're not one-dimensional beings. Like, we are all multi-dimensional beings.
Absolutely.
And, we're past the age of the factory worker where all you do is work for 12 to 16 hours in a day, and then maybe have dinner with your family and go to sleep and go to work the next day. It's like there's so much more opportunity available, so much more possibility.
So much more opportunity.
On how we can be like fully expressed, fully satiated, fully nourished human beings that just wasn't really even capable on the scale that it's possible now for us.
Yeah, it's so possible. There's so many classes and courses online and in person, and we have access to so many tools and so much information. And yeah, it's prioritizing. I think that's the hard thing, is we also have so many other things distracting us, aka social media and our phones. Sometimes I'm like, I'll see how many hours that I've spent on my phone in a week, and I'm like, oh, I could have been like, imagine I was doing like Spanish lessons for an hour a day or cello lessons for an hour a day. Like, I would have, I would be so much more progressed in this if I was utilizing my time well. So, I mean, that's a huge part of it too, is just we have access to all these things and all these opportunities. It's like prioritizing that. Taking time to learn, taking time to grow in these different areas, signing up for a class or having a art night with a friend or a rap night or, going to an open mic.
Yeah. My last question for you is, what would you say to someone who is looking to really embrace their multi-passionate nature more fully? Like, what advice would you give to someone who maybe has struggled with that in the past, either because they feel like they didn't really have the permission to do that, or they've attempted to pursue multiple passions but hasn't quite been able to like figure that out for themselves in the way that they would like to?
Good question. Well, I think maybe there's like two different kinds of groups of people I'm thinking of, but if there's people out there that want to explore different passions, I would just really encourage them to go for it. Take a class, find a teacher, take guitar lessons, take an art class, go to an open mic. Just make it a priority to like nourish those things. And for someone who already has a lot of existing passions, is to like get clear on why you're doing those things. If it's bringing you joy, if you're doing it for obligatory purposes, and if it's bringing you joy and it's in alignment, then prioritizing that, making time to nourish all those aspects of yourself, and accepting that it's okay to have a lifestyle that looks a little chaotic sometimes. Like, it's okay to have a little ebb and flow in your day to day, and to feel like you want to do more than one or two or three or four or five things. Just like giving yourself permission to be fully complete as that. Like, completion doesn't look like one master's degree in science. Maybe it looks like 10 mini degrees and holistic healing. Who knows? Allow the way that your life looks to be perfect as it is.
Wow, that's beautiful. Embrace the chaos.
Embrace the chaos.
I love it.
There's everything has order. It just feels like it doesn't sometimes. I also think, like, as a general tool, like, it helps me a lot to like write out all of my things, and then it feels like sometimes a little less chaotic when I'm like, oh, I have all these things I want to do and pursue. I'm like, okay, here's the list of like my instruments I want to nourish, all the different art forms I want to nourish, like my business things, my movement things, travel things, and then I like have it all on paper, and then I can like simplify. Okay, let's pick like one music thing, one sound healing thing, so just kind of like condensing a little bit. That way I feel like I can kind of organize the chaos a little bit more, if that makes sense.
Get it out of your head and down onto some paper.
Absolutely. That's like such a big tool for me.
Totally.
Because sometimes in your head it's like a lot more chaotic than it really is. It's like when you get it on paper, it's like, oh, I was stressed out about 4 things. Like, I can handle 4 things. But when those 4 things are just like zooming around in your head, it's like, I'll never solve this algorithm.
Because it may just be 4 things, but they're on infinite loop rotating in your mind, and now it feels like an endless number of things.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Take the chaos and make it a little more finite.
Yeah, and simplify where you can.
Dope. Well, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah,
Super
absolutely.
fun exploring this topic with you, and just always a pleasure connecting.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, how can people connect with you?
So my social media is, my Instagram is Taran_it_up, Taran it up.
Hey.
And I also have a website, TaranEmmert.com, where I have a blog where I share like healthy recipes and healthy lifestyle things, and also all my creativity. Yeah, I think that's it for now.
Cool. And if you live in Phoenix, definitely stay tuned for the incredible sound healing journeys that Taran facilitates with her musical partner, who actually just had on the podcast as a guest, Zoe. So
Yeah.
you guys have one coming up on Sunday, I think, right?
We do. We have one on Sunday at the Churchill, and then another one next Sunday at Budabella. So
Dope.
some events coming up.
I think both of those will probably have passed by the time this is published, but
Yeah.
I know that you do these on a at least semi-regular basis. So.
Yeah, if anybody's interested in attending sound healing events, they can follow me on social media and stay tuned for more upcoming events. And I also want to plug my monthly open mic.
Yeah.
So I host a monthly open mic at Archipelago that is a mic-less open mic. So it's really centered around free expression and support and love, and not around performance necessarily, but a safe place for people to come and express their voice, share their medicine. So you can also find more information about that if you follow me, Taran it up, on Insta.
That's such a beautiful space you create, and I
Thank
definitely feel like we need more of that space where, yeah, you can just come and express, and maybe for the first time be like witnessed in that expression and that vulnerability. Like it's so powerful, and it's just such
Thank you.
an honor to be in that space with you and witness your facilitation of that, and just, yeah, appreciate you on so many levels. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course.
All right, y'all. Well, have a good one. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.